Lecture 25, the last lecture, continuing with the question, what is the meaning of life? How do you think about death, and also how do you think about the significance of the fact that after you die, your loved ones, let us hope, or many of your loved ones will continue on, your works will continue on, we won't be burning all your books immediately. You will live on in some substantial sense, and your many of your projects will not have been in vain. That thought that there is, in that sense, an afterlife, is that an important thought at all?
Not for me. Interestingly enough, I think that, so Derek Parfit at some point discusses the desire for posthumous fame, and he thinks that could be a proper motive, and I just think that's absurd. I think I must be a very sort of this lifey kind of person. That doesn't do anything for
me. But what about not so much fame, but the fact that you've made some contributions to, let's say, intellectual life, or perhaps you've made some contribution in designing and planting your garden, or some contribution to beekeeping or whatever it might be, and that those contributions are going to outlive you. And when you shrug off this mortal coil, those things will still be around.
Doesn't do anything for me. I mean, one of the things I can do is sort of hop 2 billion years into the future, when the sun expands and Earth is destroyed. I mean, how long? And everything is like, as you know, any finite number of years is approximately equivalent to 0 given eternity.
Right.
So but it's partly just a temperamental thing. It just doesn't give me anything at all. But you could say that's because I'm so confident that everything will just disappear. I mean, look, you know, who reads Quine now? I mean, Quine will come back as history, no doubt, but I mean, if people disappear in 10, 20 years, and so, but even if they didn't, it wouldn't mean something to me. It wouldn't be of any value to me.
Would you live forever if you were given the choice?
You know, this is one of the readings I have on my list when I teach the meaning of life, is the last chapter of Julian Barnes's book, The History of the World in 10.5 chapters. I strongly recommend it. So what happens is you go to heaven, and he's very surprised to be there because he didn't really believe in any of that stuff. And in heaven, it's just wonderful. You can have, you know, breakfast in bed every day, and then you can play golf and get so good that you go around in 18 shops every time. And after about 10,000 years, he wants to know sort of how he did ethically. So he goes off to the recording angel and says, you know, and they make an appointment, and he comes back, and the recording angel says, he says, how did I do? And the recording angel says, you're okay. You're okay. And he's sort of rather disappointed by this. It's sort of but anyway, the real kick in the story is that he discovers that in the very, very long run, everybody chooses to cease to exist. I don't know what you can make of that, what you like. I mean, there are lots. Bernard Williams had a very poor article, I think, about why we wouldn't want to live a long time, which is so full of assumptions. I mean, your friends are getting old, dying and getting older. It doesn't really get to the issue at all. And some people would say, look, there will always be new novels, there'll always be new music. Why shouldn't I just enjoy that forever? And maybe that's right. But it's an interesting thought that in the very long run, people just decide to check out. On the other hand, you have, so I've got a whole sort of set of people here, Dostoevsky, who famously said that he would rather spend eternity shivering on a ledge in hell than to exist. And for some reason, his hell was cold rather than hot. And I understand that too, because as a child, and I don't know if you've read the beginning of Things That Bother Me, I talk about how I was obsessed with death as a very young child and terrified. Yes.
And has that terror gone away?
Sort of. I mean, I don't. If I think about it too hard, it will tend to come bouncing back. There is some interesting experimental psychological stuff about how fear of death seems to. I don't know whether it peaks around 60, but it does decline afterwards. So I don't know, and I'm now in my later 60s. So.
Yeah, so you say, I thought about death almost every night as a child. Death was the great theme of my childhood, persisting into young adulthood.
Yeah.
But now, as you're inevitably closer to that event, it's abated a lot.
I have no views about why that should be, and this is, we're getting into tricky areas here. It could just be, I know, some people say your skin thickens as you get older, but it might be that you do actually get robust in a positive way, rather than just insensitive. I don't know.
Now, the students in this class are, of course, a lot younger than the two of us, and let us hope they have many years ahead of them. Is there something you wish you would have known when you were a callow youth, like the students? I mean, something deeply philosophical. I don't mean something particularly practical.
If they're very impressed, this is really maybe off the track a bit, but if they're really impressed by the problem of skepticism, I would certainly think it's an advance not to worry about it. To think that one of the things you have to do to defeat skepticism is to give it far too much importance. And the right thing to do is just to say, sure, it's not refutable, and then just move on. So.
Okay, well, can I ask you about that general attitude in connection with free will? So you think that we have no free will in the sense in which free will is necessary for being morally responsible for things, the sense in which if we had free will, then God could justly consign us to heaven or hell, depending on our deeds in this life. We have no free will of that sort. But I assume you praise and blame people just like the ordinary person. So how do you reconcile your practice with your philosophical beliefs? So it's just obviously analogous to Hume on the one hand claiming in the seminar room that he doesn't know whether there's a backgammon board in front of him, and then going off down the pub and playing backgammon.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm inconsistent, but part of the reason for that is the thing I always try to illustrate with a story about having a choice to make between giving your last $10 to a charity or buying a cake. And I think that it is, as it were, an existential fact that you can't avoid living certain choices as if you were radically free, even though you're not. So it could be, that could be part of the reason why I can't shake off. I don't like, by the way, I don't like my conclusion particularly. It's just I don't see how to avoid it. And yeah, I'm having a little.
I mean, it's somewhat Kantian in a way, right?
It's Kantian in this sense, completely Kantian in one sense, which is that he says that we must necessarily think of ourselves as free.
Yeah.
So, and I think you can give that a very everyday grounding in what I just said, that if you're faced with a difficult choice, you can even think as you face it, well, this is determined, and in 3 minutes time, I'll be able to look back on this and realize that what I did was determined. But even though you can do that as you stand there, you can't in the moment experience yourself as determined. So.
Last question. I've kept you for long enough. And that's about your own relationship to philosophy, which is not, I think, the relationship that people typically have to their jobs. The relationship that an accountant might have to the practice of accountancy. So you say, I find philosophy in the largest sense, a profoundly concrete sensual activity. Could you just elaborate on that? This is from the introduction to things that bother you.
Yes. I actually lifted that paragraph from the introduction to a collection of my papers.
Well, we all recycle our own work,
yeah.
of course, after a certain age.
Yeah, the sense that there's an existing geography. It's a bit like math. As you know, some mathematicians are realists and they think of math. There's a kind of geography out there, and all that what they're doing is discovering. And I have exactly that same attitude, although it's more treacherous in philosophy.
But you've really lived your life as a philosopher in a way that accountants maybe don't live their lives as accountants.
I think that I'm much more gripped by it than my father was. So maybe being gripped by it isn't such a good thing. And he, when he retired, he basically just stopped dead. Whereas it is also painful, I find. It's so hard.
Yeah. On that encouraging note, maybe we should end. Galen, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Thanks to Galen Strawson and to all the other philosophers, including one philosopher-psychologist who freely and willingly gave their time to help out with this course. Roger White, Louise Anthony Twice, Sarah Paul, Sharon Street, Josh Green, Ned Block, Anthony Appiah, and Sally Haslanger. And thank you for accepting our invitation to philosophy. I will thank the TAs and the writing advisors on your behalf. And now, let's hear some tearful farewells from them.
Hey everyone, thank you for taking Problems of Philosophy. I hope you have a really lovely break.
Hi, philosophers of section 4 and 5. It's me again, and Bailey. I just wanted to say that thank you for bearing with me all semester, and I had a great time discussing philosophy with you all. And I hope you will stay curious about philosophy in the future, and good luck with all your finals.
Hello everyone, it was very nice to meet all of you that I met, and I reckon it would have been very nice to meet all of you I didn't meet too. And all of you that I met, I hope that I helped. And whether or not I met you, I hope you enjoyed the course. And I hope you'll all take another philosophy course in the future. Free your minds, free your bodies, freedom, etc., etc. Okay, cheerio. Bye.
Hi everyone. Me, Bob, and Wesley here would like to thank you for taking the course. You all had loads of great questions, great comments. I hope you enjoyed the lecture. Take more philosophy courses. And please, oh my god, there's another cat. Please enjoy the holiday too.
Look who's not cooperating for our video. Okay. Anyway, hey guys, I just wanted to thank you for all of your hard work this semester, all of your interesting thoughts and questions. I know it's been quite a semester. I wanted to say to those of you who are new to MIT, we can't wait to welcome you in person to campus. And for those of you who are coming back, we can't wait to have you back. But yeah, great work this semester, everybody. I had a really great time getting to know some of you. And stay safe, wear your masks. And if you're thinking about taking another philosophy class, feel free to get in touch if you want any kind of, thoughts on what courses to take or anything like that. All right. Thanks, y'all.
Hi everybody. I just wanted to let you know that Kuma let me know that she learned so much during all of our recitations and lectures because of all of your great participation. So for my sake and for Kuma's sake, I hope that you stick around and take some more philosophy classes, and I hope that someday we'll be able to see each other in the philosophy department.